Hey guys, Furum here, and today I'm going to be testing the Honda Integra Type-R in Asphalt 8 in multiplayer for the second time, this time at a rank of 1347 to counter all those pesky little M14As. We have a tuning of 1305 and Improve Kits 1555, a bit unconventional tuning, but the tuning that I was at before was a bit unconventional, so I had to add upon that. As you know, you can't downgrade, as I wish I would have liked to on this car and some upgrades. In this first race, we're facing a 1348 M14A, another M14A that's slightly lower ranked than that, and a 1354 Mitsubishi Eclipse. Now this race was when I was not at 100% risk, so that is why the other cars in this race have ranks very close to mine. When you don't risk points in this car at all, you get some really bad matchmaking. For example, against some Porsche Carrera GTs like 5200 above you that are a whole lot faster than you, so you don't want to do that. If you tune up to this rank in pretty much any car, you have to risk points. Now, if you're in a 1300 M14A, maybe not so much, still definitely beneficial, but unless you stay below 1300, you need to risk points all the time. Now, of course, that's not to say you shouldn't go above 1300. Going above 1300 and up to 1350 while risking points allows you to beat those M14As more likely than if you would stay below. For example, if you went up to like 1330 in a torque, you would have more chance of beating the M14As, which most likely stay around 1305. But you have to risk points. So yes, risk points. That's the moral of the story. So we have come in first here with the Mitsubishi Eclipse actually in second place and the M14As in third and fourth. Would you guys be interested in a Mitsubishi Eclipse video now that that car seems to be pretty good as well? Let me know down in the comments. Now in this race we have a Maserati Gran Turismo and a Serval, not so great cars, and then this M14A that knocks us down at the beginning. That is one problem with this Integra. It has fast secondary acceleration, so once it gets up to like 100 miles per hour, it gets going really fast, which means that if you wreck or something, you can get up to speed pretty quickly. However, from the start, it's not too fast, and even with my 1 on acceleration, the M14As still go faster, and of course the ED design torques as well. And yeah, that 1 on acceleration I actually put there just to maybe lessen the difference in acceleration between the M14A and this car. It's worked a bit, but with ones well over 1305, it doesn't work so great. And the M14A I'm facing in this race is at 1348, so just one rank higher than me, and he probably upgraded exhaust a lot, meaning that he has, well, a lot better acceleration than me. I believe all cars in Asphalt 8 that have very high nitro boosts, at least in terms of speed, have very good secondary acceleration, even if they don't have the greatest initial acceleration. So we're heading into the second lap here, and this guy was, well, pretty much just as far ahead of me as he was after he knocked me down. Now, he is going a bit faster, I think. The M14A at 1305 goes to 46 to 47, and my Integra goes to 45-ish. So I was not expecting to catch up to this guy. However, I managed to pass him when he goes on top and I go underneath, and then he's back up to speed again. I think what happened was he flat spun and got hung up against the side, as has probably happened to you before in both Asphalt 8 and Asphalt 9, and then he got back up to speed again when he was able to turn and get back onto the way. But that would explain why he didn't wreck and why he was slowed down to nearly a stop for a very short amount of time. In any case, whatever happened, it allowed us to get ahead, and it doesn't look like he's going to be able to catch up because, well, he isn't all that much faster at all, and thus we're going to finish this race in first place, even with him knocking us down at the beginning. So not too bad of a showing for this car. And as I said in my M14A video, there are a lot of Champion League and High Pro League players running around at that rank. As you can see, that guy was in Champion League, and I managed to reach Champion League in my M14A. So if you want some good rating points fairly easily, pick a good car around this rank, probably M14A, Integra, or Eclipse, and then just go see what you can do. I was a bit scared that I was going to get knocked down at the beginning of this race because of that horrible turn, and I was afraid that all those M14As were gonna knock me down, but it didn't happen, thankfully, and we're into second position, which is something I did not expect this early on in the race. But hey, it's nice. So this is a one-lap race on Mount Tied. Do you think we can catch up to this M14A? We will see. Because remember, the M14As are a couple miles per hour faster, so the only way that I'm going to be able to catch up is by, I don't know, taking turns sharper or something like that. Because except for nitro efficiency, I don't have any real advantage, because this car's drifting is rather bad, and it loses a whole lot of speed when drifting. Now here, I try to squish this guy to the side so he doesn't bother me again, and thankfully I am able to knock him down. Now this may seem a bit harsh for me, as I usually don't like knocking people down, stuff like that, but I was having a bit of a bad multiplayer day in Asphalt 8 and Asphalt 9, so yeah, I was getting knocked down by a whole lot of people, and so I just kind of went on a little bit of a rampage whenever I saw somebody next to me. In Asphalt 8 anyway, I didn't stoop to the level of ground 360ing in Asphalt 9. So we come up to the end of this race here, coming in first position ahead of all those M14As, and was it all M14As in this race? I think it very well might have been. We've got a 1305, 1307, 1299. Oh yes, we've also got an M2 SE, who was unboosted. And now for a long but very close race on Barcelona. Here we've got a 1312 M14A as well as a 1318 M14A. They're both triple boosted, so they won't be at any disadvantage with nitro, because the Integra does have better nitro efficiency than the M14A. Now, somehow I do manage to avoid getting knocked down at the beginning. I guess the acceleration of this car is just good enough to avoid them passing me at the very beginning, but then they're able to take the corner sharper because I was doing micro drifting. Micro drifting is a very useful tactic in cars like this one that have very high nitro boosts because they lose a whole lot of speed when drifting, but not so much if you don't drift for very long, which is what micro drifting allows you to do. Drift for very short bits and not lose much speed. I mean, that works even in cars that don't lose a bunch of speed when not in nitro. But in this one, it's especially needed, because if I were to drift long around those corners and maybe make it a bit closer to the inside, but I would lose a lot more speed, and therefore they'd probably be even further ahead. Now here I do catch up to him, but then I lose a bit of speed around the turns again, because that car is not nitro reliant at all up there, the M14A. So after testing this car, the Integra, quite a bit, I can say that the M14A is definitely still better around this rank, simply because it's a lot easier to drive, it's so much easier to not lose speed, it drifts better, it has better speed, and yeah, it's just overall better. However, the Integra, if you don't have the M14A, for example, can do pretty well, as long as you know how to drive cars that have this really stiff handling and very high reliance on nitro. Because as you can see throughout this video, it's not easy at all. I have to be extremely careful to not make any mistakes, and even so, that M14A is getting further ahead of me, and the one directly behind me is getting even closer, or at least staying very close behind me. So we're coming up to the end of the race here. I was very much hoping that I was not going to make some sort of mistake on that barrel roll or something, but thankfully I didn't, and we come in second place. And this Integra looks very happy about that. We were sandwiched in between two M14As and one poor 8C back there. In this race, our 100% risk came into play very clearly, actually. We're facing a 1280 torque, a 1318-ish M14A, and a 1256 M14A, all quite lower ranked than me. Then, of course, the torque gets ahead at the beginning, but since he is, I believe, 5 miles per hour slower than me, if I know what his tune is, we are able to pass him around here. Also, he is very reliant on nitro. I think the torque has a 66.6 nitro boost. That's, a bit weird. At max, anyway. So we got the torque right behind us, an M14A pretty far behind, and another M14A right ahead of us. Or should I say, quite far behind us now that he wrecked. Recently, Gameloft began an Asphalt 8 tournament with 8 players, because that goes with Asphalt 8, and it's easy to bracket and all that. Anyway, we got RPM Alex, RPM Mode, and a bunch of other people. From what I understand, there will be 4 sets of the normal versus, and then 2 semifinals, and 1 final. Now, 2 of the normal versus events so far have gotten their own events, and I think they will all do. Now the cool thing is there's 0 fuel, so you can just play them over and over and over and over again, and since in Asphalt 8 cars don't have their own fuel like they do in Asphalt 9, literally you are only limited by your boosters, so people are able to get some really good times in these, and honestly I've had more fun in those events than I have in any event in Asphalt 8 for a long time. So we finished first in this race, getting further and further ahead of that torque, and actually, I was mistaken. The M14A was behind us earlier, the torque disconnected early on. One thing I miss in Asphalt 8 that is in Asphalt 9 is the ability to see exactly who knocked down who, and just more of those sorts of things, because in Asphalt 8, you really cannot tell what's going on, aside from your own car, which honestly is kind of more like real life, but it's a game, guys. So in this final race of the video, we've got a Range Rover and a torque, who wrecks and then later disconnects. That rhymes. No one cares. Moving on, now it's time for my general review about this car. The handling is very stiff, however, it is pretty fast for its rank, 245 miles per hour. The drifting is also not very good, acceleration is okay, secondary acceleration is very good, initial acceleration not especially great, but maybe just a bit slower than the M14As around this rank. All that to say, it's pretty good. Not the best. M14A is still better, but if you don't have that, or just want a bit more of a challenge around this rank, take this car out for a spin. It's not the easiest one to drive, but I'm sure you will have some fun with it. The torque's also very good around this rank if you don't have the M14A, and actually, if somehow you got your Carrera GT low-tuned, it can do pretty good down here below 1400 as well. I've faced some in my M14A and they were very fast. So we finished this race in first place. Thank you all so much for watching. Please like the video if you've enjoyed and consider subscribing for more Asphalt 8 and 9 content. And I will see you in my next video. Goodbye!